Anna Delvey and Anna Bey. Ladies, I know you want to watch this video. Ramasani, how do you do? Today we'll be talking about Anna Delvey's secrets in leveling up and Anna Bey's latest fashion videos. People accuse everyone of leveling up, of being a scammer, whether it's Anna Bey. People falsely accuse myself, but Anna Delvey has actually been convicted of fraud. How did she go so far? So here are Anna Delvey's level up secrets and what led to her downfall. I'll start with what led to Anna Delvey's downfall. Feminism, naivety, lack of reality acceptance, and poverty mindset. Anna Bey's feminism and background led to her poverty mindset. I know some of you have been waiting for the final part of my Love is Blind Habibi series. It's coming up next. I thought I'd break it down because I've had several videos on that topic and I thought you might have fun with a different topic. Now, what led to Anna Delvey's downfall? So it's four things. So we have feminism, then we have lack of reality or lack of acceptance or lack of stoicism, right? And the final two was desperation and poverty mindset. So this is why I talk about stoicism and that money is mindset. So a major part of stoicism is reality acceptance. So accepting that we live in a classist, patriarchal world where it's about who you know, not what you know. In the Netflix series, we see one of the gentlemen say, I choose to work based on people, not ideas. See? So at the top, when we're talking about millions of dollars, it's not what you know, it's who you know. As one of the ladies there said, so who the F is Anna Delvey? Why should I care? If you had a brilliant business idea like Anna Delvey had, that had merit, and you were able to execute it, and the best at executing this idea, and this idea would generate profit. And the problem is, you are a young lady, and you didn't go to Harvard. Too bad for you. Unless you get rid of your feminism, become stoic as an accept reality, right? Then you understand, okay, it matters who your boyfriend is, right? If you're someone's girlfriend or someone's mistress, right? Someone's sugar baby, right? Or someone's wife, then those men will invest in your business idea. That's the truth. The downfall of Anna Delvey was when she stopped dating. In the movie there was this chase, right? And that is when things went wrong. She thought, listening to feminist level down propaganda about fairy tales and unicorns, that somehow she could make it on her own. Well, we live in a patriarchal capitalist society, so that's not how things work. If she had slept, dated or married one of those investors, then she wouldn't be in prison today, but running a multinational, multi-billion-dollar global empire. Anna Delvey is in jail because of feminism and the victim mindset it promotes, whereas had she actually grown up elite, she would have been taught stoicism, and that victim mindset is deeply unhealthy, which is why it's taught to the lower classes in universities, so that it sabotages the level up. And this is one of those mechanisms that the elite put in to sabotage women like Anna Delvey. Feminism, right? Because if there was no feminism, Anna Delvey would have known to sleep with some of her investors, get some investment, and it would start to work, right? There was one particularly interested in her, and who was waiting to be scammed by her, but she was practically a nun after she was no longer with her boyfriend. In the world of money, it's who you know, not what you know. And so, you could have the best idea in the world, but if you're a young lady in her early 20s and you have not gone to Harvard, you don't come from money, connections, you'll be seen as too high of a risk, even with the best idea in the world. If you were in Moscow, in Kiev, you would know this, right? And so you would know, okay, hypergamy is the only way people will take you seriously and listen to your business idea if business is your goal. Feminists exaggerate what you can achieve in career when it's an old boys club still. That's why her boyfriend Chase had an easier time than her. He also did not take her seriously, so he wouldn't share his connections, and so she tried to sabotage him. Because he was miser with the one thing she wanted, and that was connections. If you watch in the movie, everyone's taking his idea seriously. But hers, right? She should have dropped the boyfriend if she cared about that business that much. And dated those old men, right? Or maybe career is overrated and actually go for the person who makes you happy. The career woman journalist in the movie who's pregnant but doesn't care about her family, only cares about her career, and this story was just positively awful and really disgusting. Who was working while pregnant and gave birth, and she put bringing life into this world last. As in, she was thinking about the Anna Delvey story and the case when she's supposed to think about the baby being born, the nursery, and so on. It really reminded me of my university years, where the smartest boys most likely to succeed in the university now in their 40s are leading all the big things, big think tanks, all the important politicians, and so on and so forth. I was in the top program for political leadership. But all the young ladies in my program, well, the dumbest girls were the ones who were the most likely to succeed. So the ones who were least likely to succeed in class in terms of grades ended up being the bosses of the most intelligent students. So how did that work? The less intelligent ladies felt, okay, I cannot succeed by grades. I must succeed by social skills, dating, networking, marrying up, dating the right person, and so on. And then they ended up being our bosses, right? And we needed to ask them for letters of recommendation to get a job after we graduated. It taught me that for women it's never ever what you know, but it is who you know. Studies show the more intelligent a gentleman is, the more likely he is to succeed in life. Whereas I find the more intelligent a woman is, the less likely she is to succeed. The most successful women I've met are the ones who are the lower IQ in the cohort, who realize they cannot succeed based on getting good grades and must succeed based on social skills and put their energy there. And for women, those are the skills that matter. Most women I've met who got to the top in Canadian politics got there either because of their family or because of who they slept with, or who they dated, or who they married. I have yet to see someone who got there to the top on her own, especially an immigrant lady, without either marriage, boyfriend, or sleeping around. Gentlemen with money are more likely to take a young boy than a young girl seriously, because a young boy may remind them of themselves hustling at that age, but a young girl reminds him of his spoiled daughter, who of course you need to spoil so that she can marry well and not be treated like a doormat, right? So you need to spoil the girl. However, if you spoil her, you cannot expect her to run a business seriously. Well, then there are exceptions to the rule, like Donald Trump, who of course treated his children equally, and in the beginning he invested the most in his daughter Ivanka. It's a difficult task to ask trophy wives who don't want to break their back working and then raising children on top of it, feigning helplessness, and spoiled daughters. It's a difficult task to ask a person with a trophy wife and a spoiled daughter to take a young lady as seriously as he would take a young gentleman who reminds him of himself. A lady who's not spoiled is less desirable as an elite wife. So there is the cycle. If career is really important to you to get to the very top and become a billionaire, well, then you cannot date for love. You must date strategically, and you must date people who can help your career, and the moment they're not helping, you cut them off cold. If you want to succeed with your career, you have to be mercenary and also hold your nose. And, be intimate with people we find absolutely disgusting. It's all a matter of priorities. For me, career is not so important that I want to do disgusting things, and I know I cannot compete with boys because I'm not a boy. See, boys have a head start. Gentlemen want to mentor boys. If you mentor girls, well, then you start having problems with the wives. And then older women, there are not that many at the top in the first place, they feel jealous of the youth of the young ladies. And also, most high-value feminine women will drop out and not get to the top. When they're pregnant and have a baby, they change their career and do something less intense, and they are not going to be CEO. Most law firms have very much of a difficulty retaining women to be partner after they get married. I found such a disparity. So my male colleagues had an abundance of mentors who helped them, whereas myself, because I didn't want to sleep my way up, well, there was a dearth of mentors. When I approached gentlemen in a professional setting who were a lot older for mentorship, most of them assumed I was asking them out on a date and that I was interested in dating them. I was only being polite. No, absolutely not. If they're old enough to be my dad or older than my father, of course I had no interest in them in my early 20s. Then there was also sexual harassment, jealousy, right, from older female colleagues, right? So there's all these problems when you're trying to get to the top. And also, gentlemen see you as a rival, right? So you get that as well. And they try to take you down because, they cannot date you, they're married, they have a girlfriend, or you're not going to sleep with them, but, they cannot mentor you because their wife or girlfriend doesn't want that. I'm in my 40s, and I can tell you, a hard-earned lesson that, you know what, the world is sexist. You cannot change this. You cannot change human biology as much as you'd want to. It is what it is. Stoicism taught me to accept it. People say, oh, well, Rihanna's a successful entrepreneur. Well, it was rumored that she had an affair with Jay-Z and Beyonce wasn't happy, so Jay-Z gave her a business idea where she would not be in conflict with Beyonce, with Fenty. Listen, I know many middle-class ladies who had quite the lovely mid-range middle management career. But we're talking about billions or power or at the very top, right? If you want to be at the very top of your profession internationally, you want to be a billionaire, the only way up is to date or marry. Unless you come from privilege. If you want your business to succeed, date strategically. If you want to start your own Fortune 500 company. If you don't have billion-dollar ambitions for your 20s, of course you can succeed on your own. It's just that there's so many lies about the access to big money. We're not talking about a small job. Sure, that journalist got her job with her own merit, but is she a billionaire? No, right? When it comes to elite, network is net worth. It's who you know, not what you know. Finally, the problem is with Anna Delvey, especially her background, that was disadvantaged, the bullying, and also combined with feminism, she saw herself as a victim and thought the only way to achieve her goal, right, would be to deceive people that she's a wealthy heiress, right? Well, it's true, you can deceive people, but you cannot deceive people forever. You can deceive one person who's foolish, maybe for a short time, but you cannot deceive the world forever. Because Anna Delvey thought herself as a victim of sexism because she was a feminist, and a victim of discrimination for being an immigrant, for being foreign, and so on. She thought the only way she can get to the top was to scam these people, right? Because she saw herself as a victim. Therefore, she thought they owed her money. This is why we should stay away from feminists and people who view themselves as victims. And I'm sorry, I don't care if, oh, but my type of feminism is this unique, niche, hipster, pumpkin spice from that cafe type of feminism that you don't know. I don't care. Mainstream feminism is victim mindset. And this always has a poison pill to sabotage people trying to level up. So if you want to level up, just stop being a feminist. And instead put yourself first. Be an empowerist or be a selfishist. I'm not a feminist. I'm a shameless gold digger and I care about my bag and my joy and my happiness. I do love my husband, but I also live in the real world, not Disney fairy tales that the Westerners try to brainwash their children into. Fairy tales that don't exist, and then they crash and burn both boys and girls on their head when they're confronted with reality. Because Anna Delvey saw herself as a victim of the patriarchy, because she's a feminist, then of classism and discrimination, ageism. She, because she thought she was a victim, felt she was entitled to other people's money without reciprocating with value. And that is the beginning of her demise. And that is where after she broke up with her boyfriend, that is when the problem started. And it was the beginning of the end. So, because she slept with her boyfriend, she gave him a reciprocal value. He paid for her, she slept with him. There is reciprocity in this arrangement. That is a healthy arrangement. What's not healthy is living in hotels, by under a false name and living off credit and debt that you don't intend to repay. That's wrong. If they gave her a loan or credit, she should reciprocate by paying back with interest. Reciprocity is elite morality. If you see someone say that they're a victim because they're a woman or an immigrant, or they have been assaulted, they have suffered intense discrimination, even something, and especially something real. If they see themselves as a victim instead of a victor, as a victim and not a survivor, well, you must run, because they'll take advantage of you, because they feel entitled to hurt others because they feel that they're a victim. And then this becomes their downfall. So, how did Anna Delvey go into these circles? She did a lot of research. So, her parents were saying that in the movie, that when she was young, she looked at magazines as an escape and wanted to be part of that beautiful world. So she did her research on every little detail and how to embody being a spoiled princess. Anna Delvey was able to fool everyone because she did her research, and most fake, rich social climbers, they're very shallow and only graze on the surface. She also was smart in the angle she took. She knew most social climbers dress as sugar babies and want to snag an affluent husband. So she knew that if she dressed like a sugar baby, and too high fashion, too pretty, people will start to suspect. So instead, she dressed like a donkey entitled heiress who really didn't know that she had to care too much about fashion. And this is the problem most ladies have. Anna Delvey knew it was all about frame, and this is the most important point. The most important thing when you are leveling up to pass for higher status is frame. And we're not trying to pass for higher status in order to hurt people, right? You can be very honest about your job. Let's say you work at McDonald's, but you have the frame of a princess, the vibe, clothes, everything of a princess, but you're honest and you say, you know what, I work at McDonald's, right? Let's say I worked at McDonald's. I did, but let's say I work at McDonald's and I meet people and they ask what I do, and I'm like, oh, I work at McDonald's. I was like, why? And then, yeah, I'm an immigrant, and, back home, of course I didn't work there, but now I do, right? Life's interesting, right? Anyway, whatever. But it's not very interesting. My hobbies, I really love opera and playing the piano, right? What about you? Do you like to go to the theater? I really love the ballet. When it leads you as one of them, even though, you work at McDonald's. Now imagine, right? Imagine if I didn't. But imagine if I did, if that was where I had to end up due to some tragedy. You know what? They would be very interesting and say, do you really like your job at McDonald's? I'd say, personally, it's a job, right? It pays the rent right now, right? If, heaven forbid, there was a misfortune. Dressed like this, with my frame, people would try to find me a better job. See? The point being is not to defraud people, but to be yourself, but more leveled up, right? So this is why we learn the lesson about Anna Delvey, is how can we be more leveled up? That will help us achieve our goals, because people see us and say, well, I think this person really deserves better. It's really unfortunate they are where they are. Let me see what I can do to help them. And then if I help them, they owe me a favor, and they'll help me. Network is net worth. That is how things are done. There are so many artists who are open about not being affluent, who have so many opportunities, and elites love to fly their artist friends everywhere with them and pay for everything so they can all have a good time and great company, right? Because this artist simply fits in, right? So that's really the key, and this can change your life. But eventually everyone will know who you are. So don't be fake like Anna Delvey, but use these lessons to level up and be honest about who you are. But if people feel that they can relate and they can vibe with you, even though you don't have the same paycheck, but they feel the same bond, they might help you to get to the next level without you asking. So if you're asking already, oh yeah, we're not the same level, right? The reason you should level up is so that you can achieve your goals. Elites are disagreeable. Gentlemen who are more disagreeable make 18% more money. At the very top, elite gentlemen are highly disagreeable. What's interesting is that elite women are also highly disagreeable because they were raised by elite gentlemen, and Anna Delvey copies this perfectly. You know that a guru is scamming you when she tells you that elite women are nice. No, elite women are not nice. Middle class women are nice. Elite women, yes, have manners and etiquette, but it is to mitigate our very highly disagreeable personalities. Many girls I know raised affluent are trolls because they don't care, and middle class girls are, oh my, how dare you, da da da. I know someone is a fraud when they say, oh, she cannot be elite because she is a troll. She's not nice. Therefore that guru cannot be right. When someone is saying this, I know this person who's faking is faking. Some escorts, over try too hard to be too nice, to be too polite and too much etiquette, and that's when I know your background. And I know you're pretending. So, why am I wearing fur? It shows that I'm disagreeable and don't give a damn, darlings. This comes from the fact that I had an elite upbringing and I didn't care to suck up to people, right? People sucked up to me. I found this vintage piece of fur at my couture academy, so I got it, right? And I incorporated it into my outfit. My fur is a dead fox. Because, darlings, I don't give a damn. My only boss is my husband, so why should I care? Now, going back to Anna Delvey, she was in prison, and she asked the journalist, why was she so poor? Is she pregnant or is she fat, right? See those legs. This is why she attracted the elite. One of the ladies she conned said she appreciated Anna Delvey because she was not trying to impress and because she had a great taste in art, which is the next thing we'll be talking about. But we will conclude on the importance of not trying too hard to impress the elite. So we see the other lady, I think it was Jessica, who was always sucking up to everyone. And she was this journalist at Vogue, and I remember her going in the Yves Saint Laurent villa and she was always sucking up, knowing all the historic things and all of this, and she really annoyed Anna Delvey. In the past, Anna Delvey always paid for her, right? And then finally, because Anna Delvey had victim mindset and thought, she was a victim of these people, so she stiffed this journalist with the credit card. And also she thought, oh, she's not good enough because, she tries too hard, right? So she's bad. Well, in the elite, people who try too hard are rejected, right? Because you just don't vibe. I mean, our vibe in a way is our tribe, as woo as it sounds. But we do connect with those who we can relate to. If you're elite, you're disagreeable, right? And we cannot have friendship without rapport. So if you're disagreeable, the person you're most disgusted by is that pick-me who's trying to suck up to you, right? The person who's really trying hard to please, right? I call it happy puppy, but now there's this thing on TikTok called golden retriever and black cat. I used to write 4 years ago about don't be a happy puppy, but be a spoiled Persian cat. Whereas, it's a bit darker on TikTok, black cat versus golden retriever. Those with black cat energy do not resonate with middle-class golden retrievers, and the elite are sharks. It's a shark tank out there. So I know this very pretty, absolutely gorgeous, stunning male model, unusually good looking, and he lost his average Jane, cute, I would say 6 out of 10, just kind of cute, slightly above average. She's not ugly, she's cute, but cute like most girls, right? So she's cute and average, right? And he's wow, stunning, stunning, stunning model, right? And, there's a disparity, you thinking, how did she land that, right? So he lost her, right? He lost this beautiful Adonis Apollo male model, lost his average Jane girlfriend because this young kid really fell in love with her. And then he started behaving like his golden retriever dog. So the young kids, and she watches TikTok, of course, and said, I don't like golden retriever men. And he has a golden retriever, and one person said, his dog's personality reminded him of him when he is in love. So average Jane was flattered when Mr. Top male model was courting her. And she's very sweet and feminine, okay. And this is in the West, right? Where a lot of women are feminist. And though she's average, she's quite feminine and nice, right? And not one of those feminazis. So he fell madly in love with her just because she was feminine and they had a lot of things in common, I think they both played the same video games or something of some sort. Maybe followed the same TikToks. I can't remember what kids do these days. So what happened is called boyfriend inflation. And there's also girlfriend inflation. Girlfriend inflation occurs when there is an ugly gentleman who spends a lot of time courting you and you think, oh, he's so kind and loving. Okay, I'll give him a chance, right? And then the moment you give him a chance, and shower him with attention, because before you're like, eee, and then you shower him with attention, he thinks, oh, I can get hot chicks now, and then he's a jerk to you and tries to sleep with all your friends and tries to sleep with a lot of hot women, right? Because he feels, okay, now he's unlocked this level, he can get hot girls. But then, no, he cannot. The only reason he even got you because he spent half a year courting you with presents and all this and that. And the moment he was mean, you would say, well, I would rather have a beautiful mean man than have to deal with rubbish from someone hideous and so beastly and ghastly. Ugh. So what happened in this girl's story was boyfriend inflation, right? So she in the beginning was so flattered that average Jane could date Mr. Supermodel. But after Mr. Supermodel fell in love with average Jane, he would move mountains for her, and he was doing too much because he was so excited and happy to be in love. So he was himself, right? This is the bad advice. This is why I hate so much. I think it's completely ableist, and discriminatory when people say be yourself, That's how you get hurt. That's the biggest lie in Western society. If I were myself, then why aren't things working, right? When you ask people advice, just be yourself. It doesn't work that way. I understand a bit of authenticity is important, but so is leveling up. So Mr. Young Supermodel gave this Miss Average Jane his entire heart on a platter and started moving mountains for her, right? And then she said, I don't like golden retriever men, right? And he had a golden retriever, right? And then she, not long after, broke up with him because he did not take that hint. This girl was smart and knew that you're single until you're married. She flirted with everyone who paid her attention, even gentlemen who were several times her age, showing that she's open to everyone's attention. While she didn't have a rotation, she showed that, she would be willing to date someone much older, with money, or someone also beautiful, etc. So he thought, okay, I do have to compete with this older gentleman, and I should impress her. So whenever he wasn't working modeling, he would be doing 14-hour days, odd jobs, and so on, just to take her out to the nicest places, nicest vacations, trying, to compete with sugar daddies as a young male model. Sugar daddies take ladies on expensive trips around the world and do a lot to compensate for being old and ugly and not physically attractive to the girl. So he was trying to do as much, except he was even more beautiful than her. He should have gotten her mall sushi, but he took her to Nobu. He took her to Michelin restaurants. A male model taking average Jane to Michelin restaurants got to her head and went whoosh. So average Jane was flattered when Mr. Top Male Model was courting her. And she's very sweet and feminine, okay. And this is in the West, right? Where a lot of women are feminist. And though she's average, she's quite feminine and nice, right? And not one of those feminazis. So he fell madly in love with her just because she was feminine and they had a lot of things in common, I think they both played the same video games or something of some sort. Maybe followed the same TikToks. I can't remember what kids do these days. So what happened is called boyfriend inflation. And there's also girlfriend inflation. Girlfriend inflation occurs when there's an ugly gentleman who spends a lot of time courting you and you think, oh, he's so kind and loving. Okay, I'll give him a chance, right? And then the moment you give him a chance, and shower him with attention, because before you're like, eee, and then you shower him with attention, he thinks, oh, I can get hot chicks now. And then he's a jerk to you and tries to sleep with all your friends and tries to sleep with a lot of hot women, right? Because he feels, okay, now he's unlocked this level, he can get hot girls. But then No, he cannot. The only reason he even got you because he spent half a year courting you with presents and all this and that. And the moment he was mean, you would say, well, I would rather have a beautiful mean man than have to deal with rubbish from someone hideous and so beastly and ghastly. Ugh. So what happened in this girl's story was boyfriend inflation, right? So she in the beginning was so flattered that average Jane could date Mr. Supermodel. But after Mr. Supermodel fell in love with average Jane, he would move mountains for her, and he was doing too much because he was so excited and happy to be in love. So he was himself, right? This is the bad advice. This is why I hate so much. I think it's completely ableist, and discriminatory when people say be yourself, That's how you get hurt. That's the biggest lie in Western society. If I were myself, then why aren't things working, right? When you ask people advice, just be yourself. It doesn't work that way. I understand a bit of authenticity is important, but so is leveling up. So Mr. Young Supermodel gave this Miss Average Jane his entire heart on a platter and started moving mountains for her, right? And then she said, I don't like golden retriever men, right? And he had a golden retriever, right? And then she, not long after, broke up with him because he did not take that hint. This girl was smart and knew that you're single until you're married. She flirted with everyone who paid her attention, even gentlemen who were several times her age, showing that she's open to everyone's attention. While she didn't have a rotation, she showed that, she would be willing to date someone much older, with money, or someone also beautiful, etc. So he thought, okay, I do have to compete with this older gentleman, and I should impress her. So whenever he wasn't working modeling, he would be doing 14-hour days, odd jobs, and so on, just to take her out to the nicest places, nicest vacations, trying, to compete with sugar daddies as a young male model. Sugar daddies take ladies on expensive trips around the world and do a lot to compensate for being old and ugly and not physically attractive to the girl. So he was trying to do as much, except he was even more beautiful than her. He should have gotten her mall sushi, but he took her to Nobu. He took her to Michelin restaurants. A male model taking average Jane to Michelin restaurants got to her head and went whoosh. This beautiful boy wrote to me and asked me, Coach Auntie Maria, what happened? And I told him, you're doing too much. I know you're in love, but you need to curb your enthusiasm. It's something I learned in therapy for being autistic, right? That when we're on the spectrum, often we like something, we're so enthusiastic, and then other people don't vibe with us anymore. We lose rapport, they think we're weird, right? They don't like our energy because it's too people-pleasing, and people think it's low level if you're too enthusiastic about things. So if you're like that, Vogue journalist Jessica, looking at everywhere, Khloe Kardashian took a photo here, this hotel, and she knows every detail and she sucks up to everyone. She has this, happy puppy sucking up to people-pleasing energy. And it annoys the hell out of people who have the energy of a Persian cat. Have you ever seen a Persian spoiled cat and someone brings a puppy. It's a disaster. Don't be that puppy. Do I look like a spoiled Persian cat? Yes. Am I disagreeable? That is true. The boyfriend inflation situation we can learn from happened because the boyfriend was so beautiful that he was looks-wise out of the league of cute average Jane, right? So she was so flattered that someone so beautiful would be paying attention to her. Then she became really confident, started to do more hair, makeup, became more confident and started being flirty. Plain Jane thought, if I could land this, that means I must be also at his level. And then the chemistry faded and the magic was gone, and what was left was that he had this incompatible personality, right? That he was chasing her, buying her flowers every day, thinking he's Romeo. He was trying too hard. So when she got confident and cocky and thought she can land another, gentleman of that caliber because, well, he looked at her, then she didn't like how he was all over her because he was so in love. When you're courting, you shouldn't be all over people. You should be very stoic and controlled. Save being all over someone when you're married. Notice the argument Anna Delvey had with her boyfriend, which showed that she really knew how to embody an elite woman, right? Anna Delvey said, "You burned my connection, which is so important for my future business." And he said, "Well, I will give you partnership or half of my startup." And she yelled at him, "Half of nothing is still nothing," right? And that is how an heiress would speak when she has a bad deal. She would be very disagreeable. When everyone is trying so hard to impress you, people who are not trying to impress are the most appreciated. Anna Delvey learned how not to fawn. A middle-class femininity coach like Lisa Hart, oh my goodness, cannot stand her, would say you would use feminine communication in this situation. So let's do a run-through of how the situation would go with a middle-class feminine energy fraud. So a feminine energy middle-class fraud posing to be upper class, such as Lisa Hart, would use feminine communication in this situation where her boyfriend destroyed her relationship with a business associate by staying on her yacht beyond the scheduled time for a week, racking up, the price of a Tesla, basically, for staying on the boat for longer than they were invited for. He burned a bridge, and it was a beastly thing to do. Darling, darling, shoop-de-doo. Well, it's alright, darling, that you destroyed my business contact that I worked to build for so many years by convincing me to stay longer on that yacht, and I really needed her to build my business, so I really don't mind that you burned that bridge, but I do completely wish that you would be more careful and considerate of me the next time, darling. Your startup is the most brilliant and the most wonderful, amazing in the history of humanity. There was never such a brilliant startup. Oh my goodness. What a beautiful, beautiful gift. Giving me half the equity. But you know, I'm so tired today. Let's not discuss business. But can you please, next time be just a tad more careful by not stomping on my business contacts, because that makes me sad. Can you please not walk all over me? Please don't walk all over me. I'm cute. What rubbish. It might work on Joe the plumber, but it's not going to work on a shark. The elite are a shark tank, and it's not a place for middle class, feminine communication. There is a very strategic use of silence and nags with the journalist. So Anna Delvey asks why you pour in a very disagreeable manner. She does not do this with high-powered individuals, but at the same time isn't too agreeable. I do not suggest to behave the way Anna Delvey behaved with lower-class individuals, taking out her frustration of not being truly elite, She took out her insecurities on people who she perceived as lower than her. A truly elite woman would actually even suck up a little bit to people lower than her and be extra nice to staff. Not always, but a few do, just because it feels good to be charitable. But with other people of your class and station, you just don't care. If you see your waitress had a long day, in addition to a nice tip, you can compliment her makeup or anything like this. You'll see her face glow, and it's so simple to make someone happy, so why not? It's a paradox that elite ladies are often nicer to the help than they are to their equals. In a way, you can tell that Anna Delvey is fake wealthy by the way she treats the journalist and she treats the gym instructor lady. Could you imagine someone secure and happy like Paris Hilton or Ivanka Trump doing that? No. In fact, look at Donald Trump. He is an excellent example. So he's known to be extremely nice to staff. And they love him, right? He gives generous tips. This is something you'll see Anna Delvey do. But he is extra nice to staff. However, if you're not Donald Trump's waiter, he can be extraordinarily rude if he feels like it. Donald Trump feels that he can be a jerk because there are no consequences to it, because he can money it over. Whereas if you're middle class working for a boss and you behave this way, you're fired. Anna Delvey is rather extreme, especially to those who she thinks is beneath her. At the same time, the way she behaves with elite, with nonchalance, not trying too hard to impress, is what impressed them. When it came to wardrobe, the real life Anna Delvey wasn't trying too hard to impress either. So she would have things that were, frumpy but designer, and she wasn't trying very hard to find a sugar daddy, so she went below the radar. I would absolutely not recommend her fashion. Very much like I used to dress French chic frumpy with, expensive clothes. If you're not in the business of scamming people, it's alright to dress to be beautiful to try to attract a spouse. The next most important thing is that Anna Delvey did not have a superficial knowledge when she was leveling up. So if you want to level up your dating or your career, bear this in mind. So she learned everything about art and had a great taste. She knew the elite hobbies, had a select few, and became an expert in them. So, because they were too busy doing their lives, they would listen to her for her expertise at elite hobbies, right? So, also, Anna Bey took sommelier courses and learned her wines so she could pick wines by the year. You don't have to be a sommelier, but if they ask you what you like, it's good to know a few classy wines. Even if you don't drink, it's good to know what the conversation is about, to have a bit of an idea. For example, that Barolo is Italian and that Chateau Rothschild is French. It's good to look up menus in advance of high-end restaurants around you and just browse the menu and read up a little about it if you are to drink a glass of wine. In the worst case, order something confidently and pretend to enjoy it. The one detail the real Anna Delvey missed was the hair, that she just had her hair frizzy like that, whereas elite women do take care of our hair, right? And in New York, elite women will style their hair, whereas, aristocrats in England who owe money, they don't care. Especially if you spend a lot of time on a horse farm, why would you care? But, elite New York socialites about town would not leave the house with the hair unstyled. The most important thing we can learn from Anna Delvey is the confidence, nonchalance, combined with research. So I have a secret group on Facebook, and we do talk about the art history, museum tours, the whole thing, opera, and so on. However, everyone's much more interested in what's the latest bag and what's the latest shoe and what bag design is better. And when we talk about economics, geopolitics, those sort of things elite talk about, elevated conversations, it's not so interesting. And this is where Anna Delvey got somewhere and Anna Bey fans don't, right? Because if you watch Anna Bey's videos, they're all catered to her audience. How to dress this, how to wear that, so superficial, because that's what the majority of social climbers do. And then they're seen for what they are, because when they start talking, they quickly run out of depth and elite are, we don't vibe, not my tribe, ciao ciao, bye bye. Right? You don't want that. So if you want to marry up, you need to be able to fit in with his friends, with his network, and to be an asset to his network, because network is net worth. And once you're pretty enough for him to look at you, the next thing is your ability to carry a conversation. One of my clients married a multi-millionaire, and there was another lady who was competing for his attention, who was much younger. My client won, and it was because he said he could take her out anywhere and she knew how to carry a conversation, and she had depth and sophistication, not just in her clothes, but when she talked. So she elevated his status. And no, this was not some career masculina with an Ivy League PhD from Harvard. She was not a fellow multi-millionaire stockbroker. She was not one of those educated people who annoy you with their education. She was cultured and classy, right? So she was able to my client was able to carry a conversation with anyone and make them feel at ease. At the same time, her husband is rather disagreeable. So she also knows how to be assertive and still be a lady. So elite ladies know the art of being disagreeable while still being feminine, where broke women are as disagreeable as elite women, right? But they're right? You feel they're, I don't want to say ghetto because we have slums, in Eastern Europe as well, right? In the Middle East. So the broke lady is aggressive and the elite lady is assertive. But both broke and elite ladies are disagreeable. Just the elite lady is disagreeable in a feminine way. For example, having standards, saying no, using I statements, and assertive communication tactics, very often from DBT. Elite ladies often say, I don't appreciate X, and withdraw. Silence speaks volumes and is much better than yapping and arguing. So, being elite disagreeable is being assertive, using I statements, and focus on the problem, not the person, using non-judgmental, no-blame language. For example, for me and my son, having a present father for my son is very important. I understand your business meetings are what puts food on the family table. At the same time, family should also be a priority. It's Johnny's big play, his big debut that he worked so hard for, and there are 4 dates for that play. I would like you to at least make the effort to make one of these dates. Then he makes an excuse. You say, whatever, and withdraw. See how Melania withdraws and is silent? Silence speaks volumes. Just like Anna Delvey was silent and let the journalist fill in the space. The problem with Anna Bey's marketing advice is that it is superficial, though she's a marketing professional and she markets to her audience who are superficial. Most women do not want to put the energy into leveling up. Most women want a scam where they can get rich quick by putting very little effort to gain a big result. Notice how many years of effort Anna Bey put into learning everything about art, right? She learned about wines, she learned about history, she learned about economics. This lady managed to scam billionaires, or at least pass for an heiress among the richest people in the world, because she put effort, right? And most social climbers or ladies who want to level up don't want to put that effort. They want to know, should the color of the Shein dress be red or beige or green or grey? And what elite shapes should their cheap Zara dress mimic, right? And Anna Bey, of course, markets Zara to her audience, whereas Anna Delvey always made sure that her pieces were quality, even though labels were not showing. Anna Anna Delvey had, in real life, a rather messy style, but she made sure that her garments were of high quality, so she copied the style of a messy nerd so that she could pass. Now, we're not doing messy nerd, but your clothing should not be from Shein, but should be high quality, and you can buy quality clothing in natural fibers in second-hand stores and then have it tailored to your body, and that extra effort can pass for elite. Buying something Shein or Zara, and I heard they're often made in the same factory, it's just Zara is put in really fancy locations. Once in a while you can get something from Zara, but most of the time the clothing up close looks like it's falling apart. Therefore it looks cheap, right? Yes, I've seen affluent ladies wear polyester. I've seen it. At the same time, it doesn't look like polyester. It looks very refined, you know? So, affluent polyester rayon, it just, when you see it, you see it. You have to go to expensive stores like Nordstrom's. When elite clothing is made synthetically, it's really well made, you know? I like to use Bamberg rayon for my lining for my clothes because it's breathable and it doesn't crumple like silk. It is quite similar to natural silk, however it has a little more sheen. It's very luxurious, and this is, you know, synthetic fabrics in elite designer brands. Not all synthetic fabrics are cheap looking. However, if it's at Shein, Zara or any fast fashion, I'm sure it is the cheapest available, and you can see it because of profit margin. When you're buying synthetic and it's a $2,000 pair of trousers from Armani. I had a pair in Tencel, I believe, and you know, it does not look synthetic. It has its own thing. It looked so luxurious. I don't wear trousers anymore, but when I used to work, they were so elegant. Again, stick to natural fibers if you don't have a budget for $2,000 for a pair of pants, because natural fibers always look expensive and they can often be cheap. For example, if you buy a cashmere jumper at a second-hand store. When it comes to Anna Bey's latest videos, I wish she used more accurate terminology. She said that ladies look better in flowy clothes. The term Mrs. Bey is draping. So she's correct, it looks so cheap when you dress like a sausage. Especially, you know, I think of gentlemen who outgrow their suits and they're hanging by the button. It looks like it's about to pop. You know, when the button is like, woof, right? Spandex looks so cheap outside the gym, right? Because, you know, especially if it's not yoga wear and it's a spandex dress that looks so ghastly and cheap, right? Elite ladies have tailored clothing. So yes, elite ladies have body conscious clothing. If you saw Princess Catherine when she was a duchess, between when she was engaged to right before Meghan Markle was on the scene, you know, Princess Catherine wore a lot of pencil dresses to the knee, you know, clothing that was body conscious or at least highlighted her waist and figure while leaving something to the imagination. Her clothes had a centimeter of breathing room, so they were tight enough to show that she had a beautiful figure, but loose enough to show that Princess Catherine was a lady, and still is. The technical term is draping, not flowing, so the clothing is tight enough on your body that it suits you and doesn't look like you're wearing your parents' clothing as a child. But at the same time, as much as it suits you, it looks like there is breathing room, that you are not so desperate to attract attention on how slim you are or your figure, but the clothes look comfortable and lived in, like you're not trying too hard. Part of elite style is not trying too hard. When it comes to draping, Anna Bey has this not so brilliant idea of wearing, to add interest to a dress, something like a vest that's opened, right, an open vest, the length of the skirt, so in fact it adds bulk, and instead of adding interest and elegance, it makes you look like the Michelin Man. Looking expensive is not adding draping for the sake of draping, but rather add some room in your clothes so that you don't look like a sausage. Instead, to add interest, I would add a brooch, a necklace, or scarf, as you see I do in my videos. And often I might have a scarf, matching belt and matching purse, and an outfit in a contrasting color or neutral. You don't have to look fat, especially if you're physically not, just to make your outfit look interesting. Accessories are a much better way to arouse interest. Next, Anna Bey is saying checkered print is outdated. What she talks about is not checkered print and it's flannel. And you know, in America it's a classic, in Canada as well, that people wear over Christmas holidays. It's a lumberjack style. Yes, people do wear this over the holidays here. It will not go away. However, it's not feminine, it's masculine, it's borrowing from the boys, so it makes you look less attractive. A true supermodel is someone who, no matter what she wears, can make ugly clothing look beautiful. The rest of us are not supermodels. Flannel will just make us look uglier. When it comes to checked prints, I'd stick to classics, like a pure wool suit blazer for the office, a window pane wool blazer with a matching pencil dress. Grey with thin burgundy pinstripes might be flattering, but it's not a flattering look outside the office. If you're Scottish, by all means wear your tartan. If not, be careful. The proper term is the Harris tweed jacket, right? So I do agree that, you shouldn't be wearing, sports clothes outside of the gym unless it's appropriate, right? If you're living in the country and have an estate there, it's much more appropriate to wear your Harris tweed in England than, walk around in, yoga pants. Anna Bey says that wide stripes are no longer classy and look cheap. I disagree. I think stripes are very classic and were even in the era of Marie Antoinette. They're very classic. They are not gaudy. However, if you wear stripes that are horizontal and you're larger than a size 2, to make you big. So the secret is to wear it with a blazer on top. Therefore you have a bust line. So it's not so elegant if you're larger or even medium-sized to have, one of those French jumpers, right? The marinière, this way. And if you're size medium in the United States, it will make your stomach look larger than it is. It's not necessary. Being size 0, I can afford it, but on most people it's not suitable. Vertical stripes are your friend, and you'll see it a lot in Nantucket clothing. Vertical stripes are elegant on all women. Anna Bey says this stripe of horizontal is elegant, but not that stripe. No, horizontal stripes are not elegant on women over size 2 because it makes you larger than you actually are. When we're size 0 to 2, we can afford to look bulkier, it doesn't hurt us, but when you're bigger than that, and you're a reasonable size, when you're a reasonable size, a little extra can make you look chubby, and you don't need that. When you're slim, anyway. Yes, I agree with Anna Bey that leather leggings are always gaudy, and also leather pants look like you're cooking in them. They don't look really appropriate. Leather pencil skirts look far better. Genuine leather looks very classy, very elite, and pleather does not look expensive at all. Anna Bey is absolutely right that the motorcycle jacket has to die. I also think tattoos and anything gangster, hyper-masculine on feminine women, it has been done for the past 20 years. 20 years ago, I had a leather motorcycle jacket. Eventually, I got tired of it when I became feminine. This French chic borrowing from the boys has got to die. It does no one any favors. So, like or hate, please share and subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you in my next video. And in the comments below, please write what you found the most interesting about this video, and like or hate. Ciao!